So yes, ladies, we are all members of TAAG Alliance, and you're both co-founders. Are you able to actually enlighten us and the viewers that are watching it on the grounds that
what TAAG's all about?
Yeah.
Well, I think you should go first, and then
Okay. Right, TAAG was born out of the need of our community, actually. So, and it's something that Benji and I, a sister of mine that I've always confided in, and it's been a dream that's been born ever since 2006 when we came together as artists, and then we had a family of sisterhoods that I don't know if any of you know us already, but there's a group that we used to call ourselves the Code Supremes. That was an informal network of a group of friends who were very passionate about queer/trans empowerment and the whole concept of being house mothers and nurturers of younger generations of trans people in our communities. That's where it all started for us. Then over the years, and as we became adults, because it was way back when we were in university, we all started becoming working professionals. And then of course the relationships evolved, and that kind of brought me to a very quiet evening of connection between Benji and I. And I was telling Benji, like, where to from here? Because we were all still passionate. It was post-COVID, and we realized, okay, this needs to be a little bit more than just a group of friends who are helping out this little network of little young queer people. We need to make it a little bit more national. If it wasn't divisional, we can definitely make it more national. So Benji and I started talking about it. But as all things are, it was a big dream. Setting up an organization wasn't easy. We came to that realization very quickly, so we realized maybe we need to start getting a little bit more involved and learning ourselves, because we were going to be accountable and responsible for our members. And so the journey started. We kept on sharing ideas, throwing it against each other. Is it possible to do it now? Are we ready to do it now? Okay, no. What else do we need to do? Benji, I want you to be this queen. I see this dream of yours, and I see myself in this eventually. These were dreams that were coming out of young people's minds. But then we were also founding members of the House of Chameleon, which of course gave us a lot of experience as well on the kind of work that needs to be done, especially for community directing. Stop me if you want to. Maybe I'm taking up too much of your ideas. But that gave us an initiative eventually to come to a realization that that part of the journey had seemed to come to a pause. The journey of House of Chameleon. But as members who had invested in that movement, we didn't want it to end there. There were things that we could probably have a conversation about more later. But eventually we started to talk about, let's bring the people back into the same room and have a conversation on rebranding maybe, or maybe what's the look of the movement that people actually want. And it was important for us at that particular time to listen. And this was, again, a growing experience of ours. So we had that conversation, Benji, with our members, and they all wanted it to be a certain way. So what TAAG became was exactly what our initial discussants and what our people actually want. So most of the program development and the projects that we develop now is all informed by what the actual trans community want. So just to unpack it a little bit, so when we're talking about Trans Affirmative Action Guild, we're representative of the global terminology that is used now, which is trans. But to break it down, we're actually representative of Bakasa Leolewas, Bakasa Nganes, Sion Fars, and Sion Hens, and of course our Indo-Fijian sisters and brothers who are descended from the indentured labor system and the identity that they choose for themselves. So that's that, in my understanding, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, coming into
creating Trans Affirmative Action Guild was basically trying to create a safe space for our community. And I think from the conversations that we had with members of the community, a lot of them felt that it needed to come back to them. And one of the biggest things that was brought up was a lot of our members need psychosocial support. And they also need some form of guidance and more capacity building and development opportunities. And so we thought it would be a great idea to create TAAG, to create that safe space, but also to allow our members to be affiliated with other organizations or other groups that they wanted to be. We weren't stringent or stuck to the usual structures of organizations where if you're part of our organization, you can't be part of anyone else. And I think because of the trauma that we all go through within our community, it was about time that we start creating spaces where we can collaborate and help uplift each other and talk about the trauma that we've gone through, as well as support each other. And I think like even now, because we're at a workshop for queerpreneurs, and Rhonda is also here as part of another workshop with UNDP. So going back to like supporting each other and uplifting each other in terms of those that own businesses, you know, that's something that we also look into helping. And I think TAAG provides that space, and I think TAAG also provides just an avenue for Palamor. And I think a lot of times when conversations are held, it's always about ticking the box, and it's not really intentional. And what we've tried to do is we've tried to be very intentional with everything that we're doing, but as well as consulting our members and the community to ensure that we're listening to them rather than us dictating how things are run. And you can see that in our structure, you know, like it's not like a board of directors and then goes down to the organization. It's a reverse triangle where the board of directors actually listen to the assembly, and we actually try and do things that the members of the alliance wants us to do, and then we go forward with what they want. And for me personally, it's been a development, because I mean, for those of us that have been part of House of Chameleon, and I think we're still part of House of Chameleon, and we're also affiliated with other organizations, like we work for the Pacific Sexual and Gender Diversity Network, and we've also collaborated with Rainbow Pride Foundation and Dina for Equality. I think it's about time that organizations within the national scope start working together and no longer in silos. And I think TAAG allows that. Like TAAG allows that, like that platform where we can bring these organizations together to work together. We can bring community members, we can bring various sectors to build on the movement. And I think that's very important.
You know, one of the founding visions of this organization is, of course, like Benji mentioned earlier, safe spaces, because of the realization that within our communities there seems to be this unresolved, unaddressed lateral violence amongst our people. So people were looking for safe spaces. We needed to define what safe spaces meant for us. We wanted to build community. We wanted to build a space where people just like the three of us who are in this room can find safe space and actually find commonality. Instead of being divisive and making realizations of what makes you different from me. We were all about finding commonality, common ground, and collaborativeness is huge. We are pro-collaboration, opposing confrontationalism, which is something that inevitably most of us have experienced when it comes to social movements like this. And I think one of the biggest dreams eventually is healing justice. So we're all about healing too. The work that we do, like we say, we go right down to grassroots. We invest in the lives of people so that we empower them, that we resource them, so that eventually we're no longer having to speak for them, but we want to empower them to eventually speak for themselves. we refuse to misrepresent, and the only thing that we represent is if we're allowed that mandate, our membership, to represent them on this particular key issue. So that's left to the leaders to do this kind of conversations at higher executive levels, because we do a lot of work in that area too. But it is not primary work.
Yeah.
Our primary work is community. So how have you been feeling so far since you've become a member of TAAG?
It's been quite interesting for me because ever since me joining the movement, I've been jumping around from organizations to organizations. So from the beginning, I started off with the Survival Advocacy Network, which was Stand Fiji. It's a safe umbrella specifically for sex workers here in Fiji. And then from there, my journey began as an activist. I then continued my activism work with the Youth Chance for Mental Health. And then through the Youth Chance for Mental Health, I met with Sulu Twanga and Nikki Wali. So from then they introduced, talked to me about the existence of the House of Chameleon and if I was interested in joining transgender organization for by and about transgender people. So I was eager in learning more about it, because for me growing up I only knew about being a Vakasalalia or a Gauri, which is commonly known here in Fiji.
The weaponized words.
Exactly. So then from then my journey continued till today, and even though House of Chameleon is still there by heart, I still continue to have that passion rather for fighting, and will continue to fight for advancement of the rights of the transgender women. So now I'm continuing my journey, being an ally of Rainbow Pride Foundation and also being a member of TAAG.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, we also need to acknowledge the fact that all these organizations help build the movement. And so we've all been part of these organizations. So I'm very grateful for me on a personal level. I'm grateful to the Youth Chance for Mental Health. I'm also very grateful to the House of Chameleon and Rainbow Pride Foundation and Pacific Sexual and Gender Diversity Network, Deep for Equality, SMPG, Structured. But I'm also very grateful for the arts and culture component. So I'm grateful for being part of Pacifica Voices and the Oceania Center for Arts, Culture, and Pacific Studies, as well as the Oceania Dance Theatre, because it was part and parcel of my advocacy journey, incorporating the arts as an advocacy tool and continuing to push to showcase that we may be queer, we may be trans, we may be Vakasalalas, but we're also talented, creative individuals. And so just acknowledging the work that they put into the movement has allowed TAAG to, stepping is not the right word, but we're continuing to build on the foundations for the movement for future, our future generation of leaders within the queer movement.
And reflections on our journeys, I am completely thankful. I'm at a beautiful space now in my life, especially because I have now the responsibility of leadership in TAAG, to realize we need to be crediting every contribution in our life, whether they're good, they're bad. These shape the people that we've become. And the person that you see now in front of you is because of all those amazing influences. I am thankful for all the good and the bad. And in that light, most of the organizations that we've all been involved in, I don't know if you'll agree with me, they were advocacy heavy. Advocacy heavy, which taught us a lot. But we then realized that it does not necessarily have to look a certain way when it comes to advocacy. Now our advocacy looks a little bit more different, because now our lives become our advocacy. So we invest in building on trans lives, so that when they live their truth in beauty, in power, that in itself becomes advocacy, and that continues to be the passion that drives our existence and the work we continue to do.